Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is Hodor himself.
Oh, hey everybody. Hodor.
Yeah.
Hodor.
Yeah, I told you I was going to make giant jokes to you as much as I can, so good thing I've been watching the thing that reminded me of Hodor. And other big characters that I'm going to save for future introductions. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing all right. It's finally, things are calming down a little bit. Mm-hmm. We had French Quarter Fest last weekend, which was ridiculous, and it's just one of those many music festivals in the heart of the city that make it very difficult to drive down there. And this coming weekend is Jazz Fest, which is more nationally known of, and that takes place in City Park, which is really close to my place. So at least it's like far enough out, but I could like get there in 5 minutes if I wanted to, but I don't because it's crazy. But that's where like all of the really big like Rolling Stones and stuff show up. It's a huge outdoor festival for the weekend, and it's going to be a busy one, but it's still tapering off towards the summer. So how about you doing?
Just chilling. Can you believe that May is literally next week?
No, I cannot.
It's terrifying.
I blinked.
We're already
in
April
summer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I blinked and March and April were gone. February felt long for some reason, and then suddenly March and April just blinked. I blame it on Elden Ring.
So, yeah, actually, well, wait, because we were waiting for Elden Ring and Horizon, and then once it came out,
other stuff came out in March, but then the time just flew by. It's kind of crazy. So, and also, can you believe in 2 weeks from now we're celebrating 50 episodes?
Nope.
Yeah, we have been. Yeah, so we have been literally without stopping, other than the holiday break. We've been recording almost 50 in a row. Not you, because you had a couple, like a vacation and a hurricane that you had to cover from.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That is correct. But honestly, I mean, it's been fun. We've gotten a lot better with the way we phrase things and the way we can kind of have our cadence and back and forth. And the more we know each other, the more we can take the right shots.
And not only that, we see each other, because remember, there were, before this 50 episodes, there were 13 live audio-only episodes that exist in YouTube, plus a hidden one that never got posted, that got recorded, that I was able to find. And I've been wondering, should I post it just for posterity or just keep it? Is
it worth it though?
It's spoiler cast, so it's so funny that I had lost those episodes. So it's technically, we passed episode 50 a long time ago, but we restarted the show 2 weeks from today, from when we're recording. So I'd rather put it 50. Plus, in the audio service is only 50 episodes, so let's just say it's gonna be 50. But right now it's only episode 48, and this is The X Button, our gaming podcast that posts every Wednesday from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links and the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-media. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So Paul, enough preamble. Before we have to celebrate in 2 weeks, and we have to enjoy the super hot summer that awaits us, tell me what you've been playing.
Well, I'll start off from least to most played. Horizon Forbidden West being the first.
You're still chipping away at it?
I'm trying to chip away at it. Every once in a while, I'll play like 1 or 2 main missions. Sometimes I get sidetracked into a side mission. I think Horizon has really taught me that my latest limitation is not as much time as it is ability to focus. All of the games that I've been able to play and still enjoy are either live service games or things that I don't even require like sound for, that I don't have to put all of my focus into, because the more I do, the more I miss out on conversation with my wife at the end of the day. And I know that's really important to her, and it is important to me as well. So like I've tried to play like really plot heavy games, and I'm like really trying to like follow through with the emotions of the scene, and then like there's a TV show going on in the background that I kind of have to focus on because she might make a comment about it. So I need to kind of focus on that, focus on this, focus on whatever the cats are doing in case she comments on that, and then focus on her a little bit as well. So that is like, I can't really enjoy myself fully, and I think that's one reason why Horizon is such a struggle, because like, yeah, you can play the game, but you really get the most out of it when you resonate with the character characters, when you feel the character moments. And I think that's why I struggle so much with that. And even like I didn't enjoy Little Nightmares 2 as much and stuff like that. So that'll be something interesting to kind of experiment with and try to get back into some of the more story-heavy games in the future. But that's neither here nor there.
It makes sense, though. Like, it makes sense that Horizon is like, what makes that game special to me is not just its gameplay, but also its story. And how it nails, to me at least, both of those. I can see why that could be a struggle, because there's so many parts in that game where, especially when you're going in main story, you have to talk with people. And you want to engage with the conversations because the animations now are so good, you actually want to keep talking. I went back to see the animations of the original game, and my god, the leap. There was actually a leap in animation. And before, I used to think that looked really great, and I'm like, oh, yeah, there was a leap in animation. Now you really want to just engage with that. So I can understand the struggle.
Yeah, everything from animation to camera work and all of that is just leaps and bounds better. But at the same time, it's basically like watching 2 TV shows simultaneously and having to vibe with both at the same time. So yeah, that's why I've been playing a lot of live service games. But however, a game that was very not story heavy, but very focus heavy, but not story heavy, was Elden Ring, that I've been playing a little bit more of. And I'll just tell a brief story that I've already told you, but our listeners don't know about it. And that was that I went through the Volcano Manor storyline. I was enjoying the heck out of it because I found where I was supposed to go to hit like an illusory wall, get through there and actually experience the true area. Because before then I thought it was just like a hub room for where you got your missions and then you went out. And I didn't do the missions because I didn't want to be an evil person at first. I was like, okay, well, I'll just do that.
Is the Volcano Manor evil people?
Yes, because their whole thing is hunting other Tarnished. And very clearly, several times they say how bad these people are, how they're like a blight on the area. One of the dudes in the round table hold that you meet that looks like Dracula with his little black hair, you find that like they killed his friend or his like lover or something, and he tries to join them to fight against them. So like, you know, before you even get to them that they're bad news, but like you can do the missions for them and get some really cool stuff in the process. I was worried that was going to lock me out of like quest lines with other NPCs, so I didn't want to touch it. Turns out that's not the case. They're completely unrelated NPCs. And so I wish I'd known that beforehand. And instead I just decided to explore the area, and I found the boss of the area. I won't spoil what it is. I know his name is Rykard though. And it was a very unique and really cool boss that gives you a specific weapon that you can use to fight him, similar to the sword in Dark Souls 3 against that giant. It operates very similarly, honestly. So they kind of recycled that, but either way, it was really cool, unique. Took me a good few tries. I was struggling with them, but then I got it and I was like, frick yeah. And then I found out that I, by doing that, locked out the entire other quest line, because the lady, like, you go back to her and she's like, oh, so you killed our leader. Okay, bye. No, actually, that's the funniest thing. She's like, oh, thank you. He was weak, and you showed him that he was weak, and now we are stronger for it. Like that kind of philosophy. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I can still do the quest, right? And she's like, I'm going to go on a trip now. Yeah. Bye.
So basically, like, you log yourself out of a katana, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Or do you get? If it was a katana. There was like a whip weapon that I really wanted that looked cool. And then there was like at least 3 different armor sets that were really awesome looking, and you can look them up. Like there's one that's like full like vampire kind of vampire lord from Skyrim kind of look to it, and there's one that has these cool horns that like reach around the back of your head, kind of like Loki. So I missed all of that, and I was like, gosh, that made me so mad, because I am somebody who always focuses on following a guide. And one time I didn't. I locked myself out of a whole segment of the game that I missed. But I've learned, my anger's cooled off, and I went back and played more of it, and I'm like, all right, it's not that big of a deal. It was just because that was like the one thing I wanted at the time. and then I found I messed
I feel
myself.
very salty about that, personally.
Yeah, I was, and apparently there's some of the coolest armor sets in the game. So I was like, so close.
I like my Radon armor, so I'm good with
Yeah.
that.
So like, as long as you have something that you're kind of rolling with, and I mean, there's still a lot of cool stuff. You especially, probably some of the best armor sets in the game are like the final winter area for you. So you're gonna love that. There's this entire spot for you that, and I know you're gonna love it. So anyway, that was all that I was doing for Elden Ring. And then the last thing I just want to mention is I've been playing a lot of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, you have.
I have 31 hours on that game.
Just when you recently downloaded it, right?
Yes.
In the week, do you play it?
I think I mentioned that I
last week
was downloading it on stream, and I have played almost nothing else. All of my friends in our other crew that used to play Rainbow Six Siege together,
they're in
kind of
No Man's Sky now.
around. We went through a time where it was Elite Dangerous, and I know I've said that on the stream as well, or the recording as well. But the frustration with that is obviously because everything's 1-to-1 scale. You don't really have as much fun as you want to, because they kind of get in their own way with the realism. No Man's Sky is now Elite Dangerous with all of the fat trimmed away from it, because it used to be just you have a little ship and you'd go to very similar planets with slight color palette changes. You had a station that you could kind of buy and sell stuff, and that was about it.
By the way, do you remember the joke video they ever made of No Man's Sky with the Jurassic Park song?
That's like so far in the back of my mind, and I feel like I remember it. And it was like the kazoo,
yeah,
right?
It was the harmonica. They were like, yeah, because it was like putting people, showing how the game looked in the 2014 reveal and how it looked when it came out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it was
just think about it. Yeah, just think about how far that game has come out from being that joke where everyone was using harmonicas to make joke of the fact that it didn't live up to the grandeur that it aspired to.
I think the best categorization of all of that is a video on YouTube called The Engoodening of No Man's Sky by Internet Historian. And he explains both the process of its reveal and release, but also like the exact processes of each step on their side of it as they fixed their reputation. But just as like a consumer side of it, opening that game back up and just starting from scratch on my PS5 save, it was so much more streamlined. They had a full actual tutorial of, hey, so this is how these things work, and we're going to explain it to you in little stages. Like, all right, this is your problem. You have your ship crashed. These are the 3 things you need. You need that to build this. Put that here. So don't waste it. And it's like they're very specific in explaining how you don't like get yourself lost. Because I think one of the first things that I did on accident was spend like hours on release building the wrong thing that I didn't need, and I spent things that I couldn't get back on it. And so it caused me to spend like 6 hours on the starting planet. But like now it's maybe like 15 minutes to understand that and get into the air, understand all that stuff. And like now they've got freighters, capital ships, missions that those frigates can go on, and all of that stuff. You've got an entire hub area for multiplayer. You've got missions you can go on with your friends.
They're actually in your world.
Yes, you can easily, like, as soon as you start it up, there's single player and then there's multiplayer. You could just join with any of your friends super easily. Because one of my friends sent me an invite, even though we were at completely different stages of the game, completely different areas of the map. The whole teleportation system makes it easy to jump between the station, your bases, the ships. It's like so easy to get around that like one of the biggest problems was like fuel to jump to the next system is like a non-issue now. And you can help other people out. It's like all really good positive reinforcement, and I am having so much fun, and this game looks gorgeous now.
The pictures you sent me, literally, I'm like, yep, I'm re-downloading again.
I periodically have been sending pictures into our group chat and posting some of it on Twitter as well at Dork of Art if you want to see them. And it is like each of these planets I land on is completely different with its own whole system. The fauna is actually,
and it looks so
now.
gorgeous, like so clean, and its aesthetic is like so evocative that I was like, I downloaded that game last year when I got my PS5 just to test games, and I found it nice. I wasn't like in the mood for that. I played it with an old friend from high school for my birthday. Actually, he was like, I want to play something with you. What do you have? I was like, I have these games. Let's do No Man's Sky. And I did a little bit, but some of the things that you've been showing me, I was like, man, just in the year that since I last installed it, it has evolved this much. Yep, it's only 13 gigs. I'm re-downloading right now.
And it's still amazing what they can do with only the 13 gigabyte download like that. I think it might actually be bigger on the PS5. I thought it was, at least, but maybe I'm
smaller.
mistaken.
Remember,
because you just downloaded it, so you would know even more than me. But it's like, how do you even do all that? Because it saves all of your data from all that. I don't know. But
it's their procedurally generated algorithm that they found. So it's like
they figured it out.
They figured it out. So, and it's like so beloved now. This went from the biggest joke, like the biggest poster child of promise and under delivering, and now look at it now.
All for free.
Yeah.
So if you
and no microtransactions, right?
Yes, no, not a single one. You cannot spend physical money at all in this game,
other than to buy it, or if you're playing on Game Pass.
To buy it, but then you also get all of the benefits of like the expansions and everything just for free. So I'm gonna step off my soapbox, but please, if you have played it and you stopped or you haven't touched it, just go get No Man's Sky. I think it's $30 digitally, but you can get it probably for like $5 somewhere. But yeah, it's what you've been playing, Alejandro.
So I went through the sale, like it was earlier last week, and I wanted to see what there was, and I found a couple. I wanted to see what's cheap here. I found this one, Blasphemous, that I had seen back in the day, like in 2019. I had heard of this game.
I remember.
And it was like, this game is nuts visually. It's like how. I'll say this: I'm kind of surprised that we don't live in a world where we got Christian groups actively campaigning for the banning of something. Maybe it's right now with the Disney stuff that's happening with the LGBT, but just the way this game is like so offensive towards Catholicism in its visuals. It's like Castlevania on steroids. Ooh. And blood, and just it's some of the most striking pixel art visuals I've ever seen in a game. That you just burn yourself in, like so evocative, so creepy, so.
It's like it's a 2D platformer.
It's a Metroidvania / Dark Souls like, okay. with that kind of like Spanish Catholicism like, how can I put it this way? It's like Catholicism mixed with heavy metal, like all together, and it's like your character, when he defeats boss, he fills his helmet with like blood and smashes it in his face and you drink it. It's like, it's super hardcore. And I was like, oh god. And it being like a Souls-like, I was like, I'm already playing Elden Ring. I'll have you here when you're there. And I moved on from that, but I was like, just the little bit that I played, I was like, man, this is striking. I'm glad I got it for like $6. But it's like, yeah, it's not the kind of game with my dad being a pastor and all that. I wouldn't want him to see that because it's like very dang. And there's this game, and Nobody Saves the World. It actually came out earlier this year on Game Pass. This is the game from the guys that made Guacamelee. And yeah, and they did an Xbox exclusive through Game Pass that's more like a Zelda-like RPG, like top-down. And it came on PlayStation for like $22. I was like, I like these guys. Yeah, I like these guys. I like their art styles a lot. Guacamelee 1 and 2 I adored. So I was like, I'll play it for a little. I want to play this. And when I started playing, I was like, this is not scratching the current itch that I have, because it's like this RPG where you have to like transform yourself to animals, and beautiful art style. Again, same style as Guacamelee. They have their trademark look to them, and it looks beautiful that way, but not something that, again, because of what I've been playing, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna come back to you later, but at least I got you. I gave you guys your money. I love you guys from Guacamelee. This is me throwing your support there. Elden Ring, though, Paul, I am fully back in. Radon brought me back in. Just killing him in that two phase, and just picturing your disdain at the idea that a boss that took you 3 days, I got it.
It wasn't just a fluke
minutes.
between. I thought Ornstein and Smo was a fluke, and I was like, all right, so he just happened to have like a really good system, like his personality lined up with the right way that boss fought. But there's no way he can do it again. And then you 2 attempt Radahn.
And I showed you the video. I wasn't lying. I put the full gameplay. It was my first attempt dying, losing my runes, and going at it again. I was actually shocked. I literally thought this was gonna be it, especially when just an hour before I was having such a hard trouble with both the Crucible Knight, which can go and then the big beast that was like, I don't remember what its name is, but I have to fight both of them. I was like, oh, so this game's attempting to do this Ornstein and Smog, and they do it again with the gargoyles in Nokron.
They do it a lot. Apparently, that's a problem where they want to add difficulty later on, so they just throw you two bosses at the same time. That's another thing entirely. But yeah, that's a problem a lot of people see with Elden Ring.
Yeah, and and then when I was having problems, like, yeah, I feel I lost it. I lost my muscle memory from Dark Souls when I was able to do that earlier this year, and getting to do it, I was like, I'm back, baby. I'm super strong now, and I want to explore all of Caelid now, like all corners. Found 2 katanas, found the Moonveil one, and then found the one that does like the meteor zoom in thing that is like that I found in a video. That was like, oh, apparently this is number 1 according to this video of the 5 best katanas.
Okay,
and I found it just
I don't think I have that one, but I've heard of it.
Yes, I found this video of like the best katanas in the game because I figured out that even though I like my big greatsword, I have the Bloodhound Fang that allows for a blood buildup, even though it doesn't really scale with something, from what I understand. Still, there's some. I played all of Dark Souls 1. I'm playing this. There's some mechanics that I still don't quite understand. The whole scaling with your leveling up, blah blah blah. That's still a little. I'm gonna say this. I'm brain farting right now. If it eludes me, like how some of those systems work. That I just really fell in love with the Bloodhound Fang because I caused bleeding while all my characters were just like wailing at Radahn, and then I just saw his health completely melt. I was like, oh, okay, so I guess I am ready for what's next. And then figuring out, yeah, katanas are just a bloodlust. I just love it because you're just slash and just there's a satisfaction of you seeing your enemy's health just completely have that big jello thing just jump immediately. So I was like, yeah, I kind of like that. So found that video, and I didn't realize I already had that katana because I was just exploring randomly in that corner beneath where you find Moonveil. So I was like, oh, so apparently all katanas are here in Caelid. That's where you even find the samurai armor you can start with. So it's interesting stuff. That. Yeah, and then did a couple of the Ranni's quest and found just by happenstance the Divine Tower of Caelid, where I found like some religious dude that killed me, I kid you not, 30 times. I counted because I was like, why is this guy so hard? Is it this guy that is like Mr. Fantastic, that he's like, he contorts himself with like with his Darth Maul sword, the
Godskin Apostle.
Yes, yes, exactly that one. And until finally I just beat it, I just had to like pop some magic and just throw some rocks at him, and when he was trying to do his Black Flame, and that's how I beat him. And now I'm like farther north by where the big castle town is, where you fight the two tree sentinels. Yes. That's where I stopped. And I'm like, yep, I'm still in. I don't know if I should just pop in more guides just to see what else is there, so just in case I don't miss anything. But I was sure that I was not going to be playing this more, especially because I'm also the stubborn idiot that I explored all of Nokron and found the stupid the Balian gargoyles, that then when you start wailing on one, another one shows up with the big with the big twisty thing. And apparently I screwed up a quest there that if you find the guy that can give you and if you kill him while you find him in the overworld, you get an armor that you can give to like an NPC that's just like cowering there in fear. Because right now I didn't realize that there was a way to upgrade your Ash summons. I have the Mimic. My Mimic sucks. He absolutely sucks. Like, he gets
you didn't
kills.
Upgrade it though?
No, I didn't know you could upgrade until recently. I was like, oh, there's a way to upgrade with Roderick. I saw because Paul Tassi from Forbes, he's finally playing Elden Ring, and he's getting dunked on because he didn't know you could sprint. And play like 20 hours without sprinting or jumping with his horse, double jumping with his horse. So he's having those moments. So I'm finding out a couple stuff, and that's also where I found the video that you told me of the big super laser of the magic thing.
Yep, which is unfortunately nerfed until they can get some. I think they nerfed not only that thing that I told you about, but the range, because I tried doing it and it was like beyond like 15 feet. It just won't register sometimes.
Ooh.
So I just have to fall back on.
And did they mimic the mimic? Or
they keep trying to nerf it. However, it's still really good. So you just upgrade that. Just the fact that it can be a really good sponge against and focus for them. Like they'll hit it and you can die in like 2 hits, but it'll take like 30 to kill them. Even like once you've upgraded it to like 5,
I absolutely
6.
need to upgrade him because I can see the potential of that, but he's just being utterly destroyed by when I try to use him with. So I was like, yeah, I'll go back to my jellyfish or my wolves right now because at least they're like quicker to move. But yeah, I'm in, Paul. It's like I didn't expect it to, and I think it's helping that we have nothing else coming out, like of consequence that I really need to buy. We had Ghostwire. I don't even know if you still are curious of getting that.
Would, but with everything else that we've been getting, I feel like that can stay on the shelf for a little longer.
That and Dying Light 2.
Oh gosh, did they even fix it?
I had stopped caring because that was one of the early ones. So
I say for that one, they can call me up when they've got it fixed, and I'll get it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what's helping. So I was like, yeah, this is one of the. I bought this before Stranger of Paradise, Tiny Tina's, Star Wars. I'm like kind of going through the list. I'm still waiting on this easy mode for Seafood before I go back to that. So
when is that supposed to be?
They say it's coming. I haven't heard anything. So until they do that, I'm not touching the game. Because
I don't think I've beaten more than like one game this year, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's so many games that keep coming out, and I'm just like, oh, okay, let's just play that. Let's just play that.
Yeah, mine was Horizon and Platinuming it. So and Dying Light 1.
Right, which
and the replays of Resident Evil and getting to finish in the nick of time Village before we did our list. So
yeah, that's true. Golly, so I gotta catch up, but I mean, I'm having fun. That's the best part, is I don't feel like I have to finish a game before I move on to the next one, because sometimes I'll lose the spark and then I feel like I have to.
Exactly. It's worse to play something because you feel you have to. I thought I was gonna get there with Horizon because I was getting tilted in some places, but that was just me doing things on my own instead of like my desire, because that's what's funny. The platinum for Horizon is very easy. Yeah. In fact, I spent more time in that game than I needed to for platinum because I was just having fun with the inner systems of that game. But I was doing that to myself. I didn't need to do that. So, and I still got it down in 87 hours. But it's good that Elden Ring's open world is so different to Horizon in design and intent that it makes jumping to that much easier and not feeling like I'm playing another one of these games. But again, it's just me figuring out I really like open world games. They just have to be good.
Yeah. The bar for open world games is way higher now because I mean, now we've seen the lowest of the low and scraping the barrel. Because
here's what's funny: the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla got put on sale a month after it came out, and I bought it. And I said, that's when I made the joke of, hey, I think I found my next big game, because I found out I was like, yeah, I think I've had spent enough time away from Odyssey to finally go balls deep into Valhalla. And then Elden Ring just called me, and I was like, yeah, I'm with you there. I'm gonna.
So, Elden Ring said, "I miss you, babe," and you're like, exactly. Say no more.
Oh yeah. It all helps because my algorithm has all these cool things in YouTube that it's Elden Ring related. So
there's a lot.
It always takes one thing.
Factory.
Yeah. It only takes one thing to look cool for you to go back to it if you're feeling like quitting. So.
Yep.
Yeah. But enough of that, Paul. Today, today's probably gonna be the biggest news week we've ever had in this show. But hopefully we cannot get too caught up on that and not make this an extra longer show. But if people thought we were PlayStation centric before fanboys, they're gonna like blame us because a lot of things PlayStation related broke. So I try to sprinkle in some Xbox stuff there near the end to not feel that one-sided. But man, there's a lot happening there.
Let's start digging, I guess.
Paul, press X.
Or some news.
You got it right this time, so... Alright, Paul, number 1. Last week, PlayStation 4's crown jewel exclusive God of War celebrated its 4-year birthday on April 20th. To commemorate
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. Can you believe that? It feels like yesterday. To commemorate the occasion, game director Cory Barlog released a quick video thanking fans for the love and support the reimagining of the series has enjoyed in the 4 years since its release, with PC players getting to bask on the glory earlier this year, while also giving a small update for the upcoming conclusion to the Norse saga, God of War Ragnarok. While Barlog assured the game's coming along nice and they can't wait to show more, we'd have to wait a bit longer to see more on it, causing panic the game may skip 2022 altogether after it moved from its initial announced 2021 year. However, veteran animation director Bruno Velasquez answered a fan inquiry to his retweet of Cory's video, assuring the fan the game is still coming in 2022. PlayStation has no announced first-party games, I repeat, no announced first-party games, with a release window other than Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for 2023. And with God of War Ragnarok being the last cross-generational exclusive they have announced for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, it would make sense if it makes it this year considering the barren release calendar over the PlayStation side. Also to note, the 2018 game had its release date revealed 3 months before it came out, so the game could still be on track for 2022. A lot of emotions watching that initial Cory video, because the way he said it, I was like, God damn it, they're gonna delay this. I mean, it's you're not ready to show more. Yeah, because when he says that, it's like, that's code for, yeah, it's not making it this year. But then the animation, the guy that's deep, when you're working in animation, you see everything, making sure that everything is like animating correctly. He's like, no, it's coming in 2022. So I'm like, either he really is very confident about that, or he went off script, or it's actually coming this year. I keep saying they need to because they have nothing. PlayStation has nothing after Gran Turismo.
I want to have 2 moments of shock here. The first being that 2018's God of War was announced 3 months.
The date.
Before it was
the release date.
That's not a lot of turnaround.
Yeah, because the thing is that they had a year. They were like, at first it was like, when it initially came announced in the E3 2016, where they had an orchestra and all that, it was an awesome demo. Meaty Nambo that announced it. It had no year. It said in development. In 2017, they put a year. They just put like 2018. Later in 2017, they went to Paris Games Week. So then they instead just put early 2018, but still no date. We got to January and that's when they put the date, and they didn't delay. Even though internally, if you look at the Racing Kratos documentary, they showed that their internal estimate was to release it in March 2018. However, they never announced that. So they got 1 extra month, but people didn't know about. So the game only came out in April.
Yeah, that's what people need to do more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't make the release dates until you're absolutely sure.
Naughty Dog found out that the hard way with Last of Us Part 2. They did that state of play where they're like, the game's coming in February. 2 weeks later, they're like, no, it's coming in May. So don't do that.
That's something I'm actually having a fuss at my game developer buddy about right now, because he's been having a little bit of trouble. Poor guy's been trying to do all of it himself. But yeah, so I'm really glad if this does show up in 2022. I hope it has all the polish it needs. And I really hope the animation director is not just talking hot air. And that they're like, yeah, so he wasn't supposed to say that, and it's actually 2023. Sorry, guys. And if this does work out, Alejandro, though, what month do you think we're seeing this?
September.
You think so?
Yeah. Because I don't, especially with a certain Call of Duty entry that's very popular coming out this year, I wouldn't imagine they would want to put God of War next to it. Especially because this is a year where I know Call of Duty is going to be big. So I wouldn't expect it to put it in November. And they had success with, the Marvel Spider-Man in September 2018. So
that's a good point.
And last year, the last time they released games was in September. Kena, Deathloop, Death Stranding Director's Cut. So I can see that happening. Ironically, God of War has always been a spring game. All God of War games have released in March. All of them.
Such a shocker to me, honestly.
Yeah, with the exception of 2018's that came out in April. Because of that 1 month delay, no one knew it was a delay. So, I would want to, especially because it really, 2022 is such a weird year now that we were so front-loaded to such a comical degree that the year that awaits us is a literal Sahara desert. There's nothing, like, something very far away. There's Starfield out in the horizon. Forspoken got moved. Yeah, exactly. I think they can. They've been developing for quite a while. I'd be shocked because also Xbox are having a pretty barren year for their releases also. So it's not everyone. Nintendo, I always trust. We always think what's coming out to Nintendo. Nintendo only takes one Nintendo Direct to fill up the year, and even for them, it's like Nintendo's the one actually this year that with the recent they in between shows they announced Splatoon. We were talking about it last week. Where's Splatoon? They moved up Xenoblade, and now Splatoon is in September. So they know Nintendo is the expert at loading the gun and knowing when to shoot it. Mm-hmm. And then when they know they need to shoot, they shoot. Also, their games are probably easier to make, also compared to the higher quality bar that
they certainly take less hardware. So I would think that with that constraint on the front end of it, then they just get more creative with what they got to do.
And they're still selling Switches like hotcakes, so they have no problems.
They have zero problems, it seems.
My curiosity is that does Sony have something else, which we'll talk about a bit later. But before we get to that, number 2, Paul.
Yeah.
If you thought you had seen the last of Uncharted in the video game world, if the relative success of the recently released movie didn't tip you off, it seems like we're not done with both the series itself and Naughty Dog's future contribution to it. According to Video Games Chronicle, which will be featured a lot today, they noticed that someone by the name of Christina Marie Drake McBrearty announced on LinkedIn she had joined Naughty Dog as a recruiter with the intention of scouting for talent at every level to build future teams, not only for new titles but for the legacy of Uncharted. The legacy of Uncharted bit is interesting in lieu of the recent remastering of both Uncharted 4: A Thief's End and Uncharted The Lost Legacy in the recent Uncharted The Legacy of Thieves collection from earlier this year. Not to forget the Uncharted The Nathan Drake collection by Bluepoint, released in 2015 and currently playable without a problem on PlayStation 4 and via backwards compatibility on PlayStation 5. So, is the team she's hiring meant to just keep already released games being remastered in perpetuity? Or is this a sign the studio's walking back their statement of being done with the series after definitively putting a pin on it with Uncharted 4: A Thief's End?
You've got some things to say, so I'm going to let you talk first.
It's, Naughty Dog was very clear. They literally were like, we're done with Uncharted. We're making Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. And then be like, but this is the end of Nathan Drake's story. Then Lost Legacy was done because they had already said beforehand that they were doing DLC for Uncharted 4. The thing was that DLC got out of control and became its own game, which ironically, it's like probably one of the more beloved Uncharted, believe it or not.
Like, good for them for making that judgment call.
Yes,
that
and
paid off with dividends.
So the directors for Uncharted Lost Legacy, Kurt Morgan, which then moved on to be the gameplay director for Last of Us Part 2, and Sean Skagg, who worked with him as co-director of Lost Legacy before he went to do Marvel's Avengers before coming back to Naughty Dog to do the good part of Marvel's Avengers, the story. You can see a lot of Naughty Dog in that game. They had said, yeah, Uncharted is both near and dear to our hearts, and we don't say, more recently they'd be like, we never say fully no to ever going back to it. Before when they were like, no, we're done, we want to move on to other stuff. And I'm like, you guys had the perfect ending with Uncharted 4. Literally. I don't like that game as much as you do. I still like it. I have problems with its gameplay. I think it's kind of boring at times. But its highs with the story are so high. Especially like the ending just leaves you fulfilled in a way not many games or movies do. No. It's such a perfect pin to like ending the story.
Good ending.
And I'm like, Naughty Dog, you are so damn talented. So freaking talented. Give us something else, please. At least now. You can come back later. I don't mind people going back to something good after going on a stint doing something different. Right now, Naughty Dog is the Uncharted and Last of Us team. they're probably the most boring of Sony's first party right now because they're just still working on franchises they started on PS3. While other companies, like let's say Sucker Punch, they left Infamous to do Ghost of Tsushima. Guerrilla left Killzone to do Horizon. Band, not as successfully, but they left Siphon Filter and eventually got to Days Gone. And obviously then Santa Monica is but Santa Monica does God of War, but look at their previous God of War and look at this one. It's completely different. At the very least, they completely reimagined it. So yeah. Uncharted and Last of Us is still that. And I feel like, at least when it comes to like talent, I feel Naughty Dog is probably the most talented of all those teams, just based on how many quality games they've been able to release compared to the other ones. But don't just be boxed in. Don't become 343 or the Coalition, the Microsoft studios that are only boxed into the, like 343 can never do any other game other than Halo. They literally named their studio after 343 Guilty Spark.
It's same thing with the Coalition.
Yeah, it's like the Gears. The Coalition is the Gears. Yeah, exactly. That's like the whole Gears thing. So it's like, don't waste your best team on that. Obviously, like the first part of that, she said, scouting for talent at every level to build future teams, not only for new titles, but for the legacy of Uncharted. I would hope the new titles part means we're actually working on new IP. It's time. The last new IP they worked was Last of Us in 2013. And back then was like, they were always known. PS1, Crash. PS2, Jak and Daxter. PS3, Uncharted. PS3 went too long, so they already had the idea of Last of Us, so they put the new IP right at the end of that generation that had already introduced a new IP. Now we went the entire PS4 with no new IP. We're in PS5 and we're still talking about those franchises. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like,
I want to push back a little, but I want to say first that I think everything you said is pretty much valid, because it's a genuine concern, for one, in this world of things, that we don't want to jump out and be experimental with things. The lack of new IPs is a big problem, and you also bring up a really good mention of the fact that so many other games that are developing companies left their old IPs behind to make new things. I think is a really good idea overall. I think there's a couple things in this that make me not as worried about what they're going to do, mostly because, like you mentioned specifically, scouting for talent at every level to build future teams, not only for new titles but for the legacy of Uncharted. This reads to me as somebody who feels like their audience who's going to read that only cares about Uncharted. So maybe she's just like throwing that out there to say, hey, don't worry, we're going to keep making this series,
after saying they wouldn't.
but also, yeah, so that's what I'm wondering is, do you remember who said that they weren't going to do it anymore?
Neil Druckmann. Okay. That's literally why they called Uncharted 4 A Thief's End. Because they were like, we're done.
But he's not working on Uncharted anymore.
Because now he's the vice president of Naughty Dog. So he's like overseeing and greenlighting.
So I'm wondering then, because from a different perspective, it changes. Look at, did you ever play Fable 3?
A little bit. I have it on backwards compatibility. And it's also on Game Pass.
You know the whole concept between the whole first half of the game is you're trying to fight against your evil brother, who's like a tyrant, and then whenever you beat him, it skips time, and you realize the reason he was a tyrant was because priorities had to shift because there was a big evil monster coming to destroy the country, whatever. I kind of see this as one of those situations where Neil Druckmann really wants to tell his very specific stories, and he was allowed to get a little indulgent with Last of Us Part 2. And I think he wants to do certain things, but now that he's the vice president of Naughty Dog, he has to think much larger than that. And you think about one of the most recognizable series in the entire gaming industry.
That got a movie.
That got its own live action movie, and people who don't play the games considered it pretty decent.
It wasn't bad, shockingly, for a movie that was in development for 10 years.
I didn't watch it, and even though Tom Holland tried to shoot it in the foot by saying it was a mistake to play that role.
It's so funny when he sandbagged that whole movie like a year before, and the movie wasn't that bad. I was like, man,
they gotta stop letting him talk. That is what I learned from dealing with Tom Holland. Gosh, because he just puts his foot in his mouth constantly. So I think if he hadn't said that, it probably would have done better. And apparently, it's not like a great like Uncharted game, but it's a great silly action adventure movie, which is like what Uncharted was.
Yeah, in a world where we haven't gotten a new Indiana Jones movie, the last one we got had Indy nuked in the fridge,
exactly.
And then National Treasure has just been MIA. Apparently, it's gonna come back with some of the side characters as a Disney
show,
it's a Disney Plus show. But think about it, it's like that movie came out in like 2007, National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets. So it's like, you think about how long it's been since we had like a more quirky treasure hunting, because they did Tomb Raider, but it's more based on the grittier Lara Croft thing. And that's a different kind of adventure movie. So
I think at least just to touch on that briefly, is there's an untapped potential for all of that, and people get too obsessed with, oh, people are just going to call it the new X. What is wrong with that? First of all, like that's perfect. And I still think even in the games industry, where it's like such perfect ripe opportunity, they don't touch that whole like lighthearted adventure treasure hunting storyline like that.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. One of the another reason that sometimes I don't feel that hard about 4 compared to the other Uncharted. Uncharted 4 is not lighthearted. It's heavier.
No.
Exactly.
No.
So it's like they're already like, even the home companies, like they're letting that Last of Us kind of seriousness that they learned in that first game kind of seep into more of their projects, because it has like an air of pretension. So we haven't had the plucky-go-lucky Uncharted since the trilogy back in 2011. And this movie.
So I want to fight that a little, because I don't think it's the whole Last of Us Part 2 kind of problem. I think it's more whenever, like, you know how in Harry Potter everything got darker because the stakes
grew
were
up.
higher.
Things grew up.
Yeah. So I think it's more like that, where it's like, yeah, okay, so we're dealing with it's like if Nathan Drake had actual consequences to the terrible things he did in the previous games, because like he keeps doing all these like borderline not okay things, and then he got off scot-free. But this time it's like, hey, if you keep leaving your wife and not talking to her, she's going to leave you, and if you keep jumping in front of bullets, you might get shot, and if you run off for dumb reasons, you're going to die in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, and that made for a great story, but it also went against the swashbuckling action adventure type that defined something like Indiana Jones. That was those first 3 games. It definitely evolved, but we haven't had the lightheartedness since then.
I think it had plenty of lightheartedness, but it was more of this is a window moment for it, and now we're serious again, rather than overall. So I think while there was more of an oppression of seriousness to it, I think it still had just as much optimism in the end, especially by the end, because you earn your happy ending in that sense. But it was also full of like a darkest hour situation. But that's neither here nor there.
Think how they Nolanized his theme song compared to how it used to be by the Firefly songwriter.
Yeah, I'll give that one, because I am not as huge of a fan of the newer version of that song, because I love the ba 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 ba.
Yeah, now it's like more like subtle. It's like more like downplayed. It's like more serious. Again, it's like, I think Naughty Dog has like, did you just said it before, they like the smell of their own farts, and I feel like that happened after Last of Us. So
I'll concede that part of it, at least. I do want to just mention on that last part of the possibility of the whole series coming back thing, and then we can move on. I always took from Uncharted 4's, especially its ending, as a
passing of the baton.
Yeah, and spoilers for the ending of Uncharted 4, obviously, for anybody. Because he has a daughter by the end who very clearly is taking on all of his personality traits for treasure hunting and desire, but like she's young. So it's like, oh, you're going to grow up. It's that moment in Phantom Menace where Palpatine says, we're going to watch your career with great interest. And it's like, you know, something's going to happen, and she's going to like grow older, and not even like a negative thing. It's just she's going to follow in her parents' passion and have her own adventures 20 years later or whatever when she's older. So I kind of just always took that as, okay, this is the end for Nathan Drake himself. He's retired, he's happy with Elena. This is now the next generation story. So, and then, or continuing with Chloe and whatever. So that's just how I always took it. So when I saw them saying, all right, we're done, it's okay for now. So I do agree with you, though, that they need to take at least a jump for one attempt away from that IP. And then they can come back to it whenever they want.
So, do you remember Sly Cooper?
Yes.
The trilogy happened, and then years later, a 4th game happened. Sucker Punch didn't do it. It was Sansaru that did it. I feel the best way for a franchise to continue is finds people that are talented enough that, because here's what happened. Like, Sansaru literally made a prototype of the Sly Collection HD that came out on PS3, showed it to Sony, be like, hey, you haven't done anything with Sly, look what we're doing here. And Sony liked it so much, it's like, you're making that an HD collection, and by the way, you're working on the fourth game because it's unrecognizable.
Can you imagine, though, people that worked at Naughty Dog who got their job hoping they'd work on the next Uncharted, only to hear Sony be like, yeah, so you're not going to work on it, these guys will.
Imagine, and then they could give it to, because there was rumors that there was this group within Sony San Diego, we were going to talk about them in this next story, that they originally planned on remaking the original Uncharted to kind of do something, because it was a studio within the MLB The Show guys. They were like, we can do something because we do support and stuff, and they ended up doing something that probably was a little unnecessary. We'll talk about that. And I feel like I'm not opposed to Uncharted continuing. I'm opposed to Naughty Dog continuing working on Uncharted, considering how long they've worked on that.
Okay,
yeah. And I feel that Uncharted deserves to exist. It's a fun series. I don't feel like it makes money.
You're not worried about it or continuing, despite they said it not. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that it's going to be the same company continuing to just push the IP into the dirt. Mm-hmm. I could see that. Okay.
Yeah. I would rather that, because then that way Naughty Dog knows that they can always consult, because Sucker Punch consulted to Sansaru when they were doing Thieves in Time to make sure that everything lined up, and people like Thieves in Time a lot. So they could totally consult like they did with Sony Band when they did Golden Abyss on Vita. That was a good Uncharted game. So that's why I'm like, yeah, it's like, I just don't want like the potential of Naughty Dog to just be boxed into these two series. Like, God of War was already pushing it. They got away from that by making one of the greatest games of all time by reinventing it. So because if it had been the exact same camera effects, combat, I wouldn't have been as excited.
Yes.
It could have been just another God of War, like that. Just another God of War hurt Ascension. So that's why, like, I feel like it's healthy for studios to do something new. Guerrilla now is beloved because Killzone was like something that was never that. It was good, but people never like really cared about it, and now people care about it because of Horizon. Obviously, Horizon keeps getting screwed over by releasing next to defining generational games over and over, but that's still like filled up that studio with a confidence they didn't have before because they got to stretch their legs. So Naughty Dog was the first one to do that. Actually, they were like, they're like, no, we're leaving Jack behind. Now we're doing Uncharted. Now we're leaving Uncharted behind to The Last of Us. Oh, Sony wants another Uncharted. I think we can do another one, despite originally just conceiving a trilogy. So let's just not box them. Especially, it's like, I feel Naughty Dog, with all the sci-fi teases from the stupid collectibles from Last of Us Part 2, I feel they have a good sci-fi game within them, and it would be really cool. I'd rather see that. Then after, if you have a really good idea, go back to your old games. But give us something new now. You've been working on the same stuff over and over. And it's unfortunate because not only were they just remastering this, they're still working on the same stuff over and over. Number 3, Paul. You may not want it or think it's too soon for it, but the rumored The Last of Us Remake seems like it's getting closer to being a reality and officially being Naughty Dog's next release project for a potential 2022 release. Back in 2021, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported this remake was originally being developed at the PlayStation Visual Arts Service Group, being incubated within Sony San Diego studio, the guys making MLB The Show, like I mentioned, before the project was then allegedly moved over to Naughty Dog, with the group serving as support on the project they had started. While Naughty Dog had never confirmed they were working on this project, we know they had been hard at work at their Last of Us multiplayer project. Spotted again by Video Games Chronicle, a recent LinkedIn spotting by one of their QA workers pretty much confirms Naughty Dog is at the helm for this remake. He put unannounced remake in his LinkedIn, so that confirms it. Trusted leaker Tom Henderson suggested earlier this year the project was nearing completion, so with Sony having literally no announced upcoming games after the release of Gran Turismo 7, we should be hearing about this remake and their multiplayer project soon. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, they're still boxed in. There's still, especially like, to me, The Last of Us Remake, in lieu of the remaster, still working well on PS5, is the biggest.
And looking better than most things that come out today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still.
Might I add?
Yeah, I will say it still has some rough edges here and there. That's
especially in the movement, though. I mean, if you like took a screenshot or watched the really good
it still looks
facial
pretty.
animation,
Yeah, it still looks pretty.
Cinematics. That's more what I'm referring to. But yeah, you're right. Like the gameplay itself is clunky and rough. So like that I could see getting bumped up with the Last of Us 2 style of a movement and activities, but
I'm not gonna kid. This is where this is like monkey's paw scenario. It's like I don't want, like, I feel it's too soon. We were not even 10 years since Last of Us 1 came out.
Yeah.
But 2 plays so damn well. Gameplay and visuals were so great in that second game. Obviously the story, I love it. Some people have some problems with it, but as a video game, it was like such a great evolution that I'm like, that first Last of Us, if you could play like that, especially because that's a story that I really love, I'm not entirely like, I'm not gonna buy that. But then just on principle, I'm like, this sucks that is what's next from them. After we got Last of Us Part 2, that's what they're working on, a remake of the first game. This is again like my frustration. Then reading, oh yeah, we might touch about Legacy of Uncharted. So go back to the other thing. No, give us something new. Last of Us Part 2 was my game of the year in 2020. I'm saying that as someone that absolutely in that camp that absolutely loves that game.
Yeah.
I don't want another one. Not right now. Give me something new. Show me that you have the chops and the talent that you can do a new IP and be like a complete game of the year game changer like you did before. Don't feel like you're just stuck in your past glories.
How much do you think that is because Naughty Dog raised the bar so much that our expectations are now so high?
And I feel they are now boxed into that, being like, yeah, we can only do this because I don't think we can go. And I feel for all creatives that they have to feel like, especially I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now, and I feel and I'm sensing that, especially as the show goes on, it's feeling like Beanie of Unwise fell under that.
Right now?
I'm in season 5 now.
Gosh, you are trucking through.
Yeah, I've been like trucking through a season per 2 days because it's only 10 episodes per season, and
I don't know why I thought there were more.
Because the show is so dense, and I feel like especially in that case, they started with the Battle of Blackwater, and then they just kept escalating with the battles, and then their battles are so insane. Look at Battle of the Bastards, but then they lost sight of who they were by trying to just escalate themselves and be like, we gotta top what we've done before, and losing ourselves in the process. So I don't think Naughty Dog is quite there yet, but now there's that fear, especially with Last of Us Part 2 dividing the fandom like it did. So it's not like you have the people that still think that this is like the top of the line. Even as I love the game, I still say I don't think it's PlayStation 4's best game. I would easily say Last of Us 1 was PS3's best game. That's easy to say.
Yeah.
I feel God of War is a better deserving title for that. In other games, like even I would even put a Spider-Man over Last of Us Part 2 personally.
Oh yeah,
so,
definitely. That is easily up there.
Even though the craft and display of Last of Us Part 2 is higher than Spider-Man. The craft, the visuals, acting, all of that. It's like that's the one thing that I'm like, yeah, Naughty Dog's unrivaled. Like in just production value, no one touches them. Mm-hmm. But in overall game and all that, I feel others have just done what they've done and done it better in a way.
I mean, you look at it with was it Nakey Jake? He said it himself. Like, if you really broke it down, you can literally load into Last of Us 2's combat scenarios, and you can beat all of it in about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. The whole rest of that is entirely about the cinematic storyline. Mm-hmm. And if you wipe that out, the game itself is very repetitive, and there's not as much there.
And if the story doesn't work for you, you're screwed.
Exactly. So that's I think they rely so much on the story that if they make or break it, be based on that rather than
and compare my experience with Uncharted 4. Compare my experience with Uncharted 4. That story carries me even as I don't like the gameplay.
Which is fun. Yeah, you see, like it works because if it works, it works. Mm-hmm. That's profound, but I used like 3 words. Mm-hmm. If it works, it works. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, especially adding this onto the context with what we just read. Mm-hmm. Naughty Dog is really either backing themselves into the corner or allowing Sony to kind of push them around because Sony needs good IPs. Mm-hmm. And since Naughty Dog is just consistently blowing people out of the water, they're like, yeah, so you're just gonna work on this now. Yeah. And that's it.
And I feel like they're also doing the safe stuff that know they make money. Let's not forget, it's like, obviously I can totally see why they would go back to Uncharted, be like a synergy of the fact that the movie was well received and it made money. Last of Us is doing a TV show by the guy that made Chernobyl.
I forgot about that.
And Neil Druckmann is executive producing it. So
Yeah.
you can kind of see like remember back to the movie tie-ins, Paul. We're like, of course, let's put a game like next to like a big TV show or movie, because then people are gonna be are likely to then buy the game because they're gonna be in the mood. And to be fair to that, many times I've said, when you sometimes watch something, you have the anchor to try something different to kind of scratch that itch, maybe in a different medium. That's happened to me. In fact, I feel I've stuck more closer to Elden Ring by the fact that I'm playing Game of Thrones, and just it being like in this very decrepit medieval setting. Watching that, playing Elden Ring kind of gives me that same vibe. Ironically, there's that GRM and connection that you like to downplay as much as possible, but there's a connection tissue there. But it makes sense sometimes. Sometimes that kind of synergy can help. It's cynical. It's a money-grabbing, cynical scheme that I'm disgusted by, but I know why it works. But I can see
I'll
why.
Acknowledge it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just acknowledge that maybe that's the reason why. And again, it's like Naughty Dog is probably Sony's most important team. That's the team that's given them so many, probably per capita, has given them more Game of the Year awards than the other studios. With Uncharted 2, the first Last of Us Part 2 also, because remember, Last of Us Part 2 swept in Game of the Year awards.
Yeah.
So
I who knows? Maybe Spider-Man will catch up to him soon.
Yeah, Spider-Man didn't win Game of the Years as much as nominations. It was nominated, but it was like he got screwed by Red Dead and God of War that year.
But at least we know the sequel's coming, so
maybe. Exactly. It could be, especially depending on the year it has. I don't think there's gonna be an Elden Ring style like game changer in 2023. I would be wrong. I'd be glad to be wrong, because I knew Elden Ring was gonna be big, just not this
Breath
big.
of the Wild 2?
Yeah, Spider-Man is screwed. Yeah, Spider-Man is screwed. But yeah, so let's see when we hear. That's the thing. Like, we're finally at the point. Sony's got to talk. They gotta say something.
They do,
because they gotta talk. Like,
they're running out bad.
Especially because they're not the king of the hill. We're gonna talk about it more later. But yeah, so number 4, staying on PlayStation, Paul. It would appear PlayStation PC experiment has worked well for the company and may be looking to double down on it. Again, according to Video Games Chronicle, they're hiring a senior director that will be responsible for the strategy and commercial activity within global channel sales and will deliver a single optimized PC sales growth and commercial plan. All of this is following relatively successful PC releases for Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, and God of War, with the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection aiming for a potential June release on PC. With the doubling down on PC gaming, only one less hurdle is left now. Are they going to commit to the staggered console PC release? Or is this initiative meant to accelerate the day-date approach Microsoft has been doing with Xbox since 2016? So, when I read something like optimized PC sales growth and commercial plan, you know what that tells me? Day and date.
I like the idea that all this is getting more accessible to everybody, because no matter what you kind of choose, as long as you're patient, it'll eventually make its way to PC, which is like the single best way to have longevity in your game, both from mods, from people being able to hold on to it easier, and it's never going to get obsolete as a concept, so it's always going to exist somewhere digitally. So I really love the idea for it, and I think they have to eventually. I think you're right. I mean, the time between them having a console version and announcing the PC version has been getting shorter and shorter, I think. But
this Uncharted release is the closest.
Definitely. How long, or not how long, how have the PC ports been for all of these? Because I haven't really heard.
Horizons was rough because it was their first one. They patched it up and it worked fine, but it didn't launch initially great, but it sold well. Days Gone was a better PC release than Horizon, like kind of in the quality like at launch, and it sold relatively well. Unfortunately, it happened after they were like, no more Days Gone, so it's like they just put it out there because it might as well. The God of War port, excellent. People like praise that port so much this January. And just for like the space in between these, Horizon Zero Dawn was 2017. The port came out in 2020. 3 years. Days Gone, 2019 game. PC port 2021. 2 years. God of War 2018. PC release 2022. Almost 4 years. Now, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection. Obviously, that's this collection specifically, this actual remastering came out this year, and on PC is coming out 5 months later because it was a January thing. But Uncharted 4 was a 2016 game. So,
but you could argue that that one was coming out before they even cared, so they probably didn't even try working on it until very recently. So.
Yeah, and we'll see like how much. And the thing is that what's tricky about the Uncharted one was that a lot of those PS5 ones are obviously upgrades. Like the people that got the PS5 version of this collection, obviously I got it through a $10 upgrade. I hate that they charge for upgrades like that when Microsoft gives them for free, but it was what it was. But yeah, a lot of people bought it from there. How many people are gonna buy it on PC though? I think that's gonna tell the tale for them. And I don't know what else could be showing up on PC relatively soon. There's so many games that they could put out on PC. Ghost of Tsushima, I think it's one they could put over there.
Oh, they could do that so easy.
I feel Returnal could be a great one because I feel the roguelike just thrives on PC.
I think that one's only a matter of time. A lot of people thought the whole co-op one was going to be a PC release trailer as well, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But I think it's only a matter of time for that. I think that all of it needs to come to PC for any of this to last. Yeah, and I think the tricky part about PlayStation is that unlike Xbox, they absolutely make their money. I've said it before, they make their money on consoles. They make those consoles. Like Xbox doesn't care that you buy their consoles if you go to PC route because they make more money on software and subscriptions and all that. They put their money, they put their business so it can be more successful that way. And that's the one I think hiccup that they're going to have to overcome because they need people to buy their console, and if they give their games to PC elsewhere, there's no reason. So honestly, part of me thinks that they're going to try to hold on to that delayed response.
Precisely for that,
because I don't think they care about, oh, we don't want to make sure everyone gets our game on all of their consoles. They're like, no, you buy it on PS5 and then in like 2 years you can have it on PC. We don't care about any of that.
I feel so this is what's gonna happen if for some reason PS5 falls behind, which it's looking likely based on something we're gonna read. Maybe that's the grab the hammer, hit the glass, press the red button like DEFCON 5.
Okay. But do you think they're even going to make enough money to offset the fact that their console's going to go down? Because that's going to make their console go down even more.
Yeah, but then they'll want more money because if the more money is going the other way, they might as well have maximized now. So right now they can because they're at the top. They're not quite at the top they were last time, but they're still at the top. However, the tides are changing. We'll talk about that later.
Margin is getting closer.
Yes, the White Walkers are closer. So, number 5, Paul. Still a Sony. Better than late than never. It would appear Sony's actually going to commit and do something about game preservation after seemingly being neglectful about it with how they've handled.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, about being neglectful about it with how they've handled backwards compatibility outside the PlayStation 4 because PS4 backwards compatibility works super well. With the exception of Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Screw you, Ubisoft, fix that freaking game. Once again, by Video Games Chronicle, they noted Garrett Fredley, who had previously been working as a build engineer for Canadian mobile developer Kabam, has now joined PlayStation as a senior build engineer. Fredley said, "Today is my first day as a senior build engineer for PlayStation, working as one of their initial hires for the newly created preservation team. This move is notable following their announced offerings for the PlayStation Plus revamp releasing in June, where the back catalog from PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games are locked behind the premium tier, with PS3 relegated to cloud streaming. It was previously reported by both BGC and Jeff Grubb they heard rumbling Sony is actually working on a native solution for the perpetually troubled PS3 hardware, so the existence of this game preservation initiative may give credence to those rumblings." So,
I don't know if I have much to say about this one outside of thank God we're getting some like actual news about this. And I mean, shame on Sony for not being the ones to actually try to break it themselves, because you know how good of a PR jump that would create.
Yeah.
But instead, we have to dig through the sand as
exactly.
It were.
And I feel they don't want to say it because they know they're way behind, absolutely behind. They just should have.
That's when the expectations begin, is when they announce it.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I heard the podcast that I showed you that I totally listened to, Sacred Symbols, the one that did the interview with this stupid abandoned
Yeah.
thing that almost drove me insane. He had someone called Tom's Moore's Law, which does he knows a lot of technology stuff, and he has inside sources that work at software stuff for Sony. Apparently, this emulator for Sony has been at the works for a while. And the PS3 was such a nightmare to develop for that some games were coded specifically on a case-by-case basis because of how stupid the design was. That Battlefield 3 on PS3 uses like 7 SPU cores that other games don't use, and like Uncharted uses a different side of the hardware to make itself work. So the PS3 is so complex that you can just do like a flat emulator, because some games are just coded differently because of how horrible the cell processor was, that everyone had to like cheat the system basically and make a way for them to make their game work. So he was saying that Sony's like in that pickle that they'll probably have to do like individual emulators for every PS3 game that they could do, and that's the reason why we haven't seen that, but they're actively working on it. That's just kind of like giving an idea of how bad it is. So probably now that they have this game preservation thing, it's something that they understand. That's the thing, like with the tides changing that we're talking later, some people are noticing, oh my god, over on that side, they care about preserving your library. They're respecting that. They're doing the work.
Yeah.
Over on this side, it doesn't seem like they care. Sometimes you like long-term investments, so glad for Sony to do that. It would have been, like I said, it would have been better to have known about that. It's what I'm saying, but Sony's like the king of promising and under delivering sometimes.
Like 13 years late, but I guess better late than never? Question mark. I mean, it would be nice to be able to play a legitimate version of Metal Gear Solid 4.
I just hate that my PS3 is still plugged in. That's what I hate the most, that it's still plugged in because of that.
And then like you're one of the few people that's able to, but like I don't have enough real estate anywhere near it to do that, and it's not worth it to pull it out, dust it off, and plug it all in.
It's just annoying. It's just absolutely annoying. That's why like I praise Xbox so much for how they did backwards compatibility. Even if it's not 100% backwards compatible, it has so many games, the games that matter.
We talk smack across the board evenly, I think. Xbox, this is one of the places I got to give y'all kudos. Y'all give it literally for free. You put the disc into the system and it says, hey, here it is.
Yeah,
here you go. Plus enhancements, plus benefits, and no charge to us whatsoever. And I'm like, you can't beat that. That's fantastic. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that one.
Exactly. So staying on PlayStation, Paul, number 6, staying on the PS Plus premium tier. According to GameDeveloper.com, relayed by BGC, Sony's making it mandatory for every game released on the platform priced above the $34 range to have a game trial following the release of the revamped PS Plus.
It's such a specific number.
Yes. The premium tier of the service is meant to allow for full-on game trials that should be at minimum 2 hours. Ironically, this is an option that exists over on Steam for free, basically, where every time you purchase a game, you have the option to get a full refund as long as you don't exceed 2 hours of playtime. Considering the Steam model is literally just playing the full game, it seems strange to think that's not the model Sony is pursuing, and that extra work will have to be done by developers to make a glorified demo instead of just allowing the full game download with a 2-hour time limit.
What if I wanted to like throw out the possibility on this one, because I've butted into the problem side of that Steam option, because one, it's very difficult to time out exactly those 2 hours that you could just very easily.
It's 2 hours as soon as you start a game. That's the thing. Like.
And that's like, it's very, you can get a lot out of that for like a Devil May Cry, but you put in a Total War game and you're not going to get anywhere. So I can see how that can be really not working for like a catch-all fix for it. And so asking somebody to just say, hey, this is a specific thing that's going to end at 2 hours, that's going to give people a good decent idea of the game. And I feel like there's got to be just like a chunk, a vertical slice that you can always just take out of your game to have like a little 5 gig download, and that way you don't have to spend the money on the front end, because Steam, you still have to buy the game first.
But you get a full refund.
You do, but it is a bit of a hassle. Sometimes I've gotten lost before I figured out how to get it to work. And one time they just refused me. And I was like, well, what the heck, guys?
It used to be shorter.
Yeah.
The timeline was shorter on Steam, and then they made it 2 hours.
Right. So I could see how this is like, all right, well, this is no investment on your part, Sony's saying. Just be able to play the game a little bit and then make your decision. So, like, I can respect that side of it, because then when you get into the side of, well, we're going to have to boost up all the people asking for refunds if they do it like Steam. So they have to pay for a whole division to deal with it.
Sony is definitely going the harder way, because they're the only one of the... I think Nintendo's just the same. They're the most prickly at refunds. Look what happened with Cyberpunk. They had to jank that game off the store because of their whole refund policy, because they could have easily keep it there and just refunded people, but they don't like refunding.
I'll give it that. Their refund policy should be way better to begin with.
Exactly. So
at this, I see why they're doing it, because their system is already so bad.
Yeah. And I would feel... And here's what's funny. When PS Plus started back in 2010, you had this. If you were on PS Plus, there were a few games you could like download the whole thing, and you had like an hour to play. And if you liked, just buy it and keep playing, because the game's already installed. Why overcomplicate? I would hope that this is just something that got kind of like mistranslated, or just like the game of telephone didn't really exist, because I would find it very stupid that you're asking your developers, all of them, to do a glorified demo. That takes time. When you just put a game and then just put the time limit, the developers don't have to do extra work. You're becoming more draconian if you're just asking them make a vertical slice, because then it's like, no, then a game demo. But then if it's a game demo, why is it just exclusive to the premium tier?
Right.
Yeah, the premium tier should be that just download the whole thing, because they don't have to do another work. Just put it in, program it. That have been like, yeah, either downloading this as a trial, they just download the whole thing. It starts as soon as you start, and then when the timer's out, it's gonna be like the Avengers thing that popped you out, that popped the message being like, hey, time's up. Wanna buy?
Right.
Keep playing? Buy? Boom. Just keep on.
Yeah. That would be easier, and having the actual notification show up to stop you, to say, hey, wait, if you keep playing, you're gonna have to pay for this. Rather than like, all right, you play and realize, oh shoot, I'm like 2 hours and 15 minutes over. Now they're not gonna let me give my money back.
Yeah, or just have that notification like pop up when the 2 hours are up and be like, hey, wanna keep playing? Just buy.
Right. So I think that they're going to just try to brute force this and see what happens. I agree, though, this demo situation, if they're asking for developers to require that needs to just be free.
Exactly.
That needs to be free across the board. That shouldn't be required by some special subscription tool.
Exactly. So it's like, again, it's like, if this is actually how Sony does it, again, what I tell you, there's a level of incompetence over Sony over the things that shouldn't be this complicated. Yeah. So, number 7, Paul. This is going to get a little technical for you, so you may not know about it. I'm still going to read it. Variable refresh rate, VRR, has been one of the cooler newer technologies available on some high-end PC monitors and TVs, allowing for a smooth image that hides, mitigates unstable frame rates and screen tearing, as long as the hardware connected supported the option. It's a technology that's been available over the Xbox side, dating back to the refresh of the Xbox One in 2016, not to mention the PCs that allow that, and one that PlayStation's been completely missing on for a while. During the March 2020 tech reveal of the PS5, Mark Cerny had promised VRR would be featured in the console. However, the system launched without it, being touted as one of the features next to the storage expansion that would be patched at a later date. This week, the feature is finally releasing alongside an initial batch of games that will support the feature, including Astro's Playroom, Call of Duty Vanguard, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Destiny 2, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Godfall, both Spider-Man games, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, Tribes of Midgard. Also, Deathloop announced they were going to support it after this list came out. Just throwing it out there. Sony also knows the feature can be overimposed on games that don't natively support the hardware, similar to how Boost Mode has improved early PS4 games without a Pro patch, with the caveat some games could suffer some strange behavior from a case-by-case basis. Note, this feature only works with a VRR-compatible monitor display with an HDMI 2.1 port. So basically, Paul, variable refresh rates makes the game feel like it's always running at 60 frames with no screen tearing, despite it having screen tearing and not running at 60 frames. It makes like a jittery game feel smooth.
Okay.
So this is something the Xbox has had for a while. In fact, a lot of people were saying that for Elden Ring, for example, if you had a variable refresh rate monitor playing on Series X, which has a worse frame rate than the PS5 version, it's more ideal. because it then makes the game look literally smooth. And then on the PS5, if you wanted the full 60 frames, you had to play the PS4 version on PS5 there. So variable refresh rate is just, sometimes you notice the frame rate drops. I think you notice them now after what happened to you with Devil May Cry Special Edition.
Yeah.
This would help make the game feel smooth all the time. If you had a monitor or a TV that enables VRR, some of those are expensive. And
yeah, that's where it's going to get a little tricky. Same thing with like back when we were trying to figure out the whole, where's your refresh rate, or what is your resolution capable of for your TV? And it's like, well, shoot, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel because you have 100, because your TV can do 120 frames, right?
Mine's probably fine.
Yours could probably just check the model and see if it has, because if it has, this is something you could try.
Yeah.
My TV I don't think has it, so this is not for me. But this is for the people that want that. Insane that it took this long. Microsoft has had variable. In fact, my fat Xbox One has the option for VRR if I have an HDMI that can connect it, because they patched it in.
Huh.
So
this is one of those things that's like, well, that's nice.
yeah, it is
Right.
Yeah, it's finally happening. So it was one of the things that were like, Sony, apparently the box says that it has BRR. If you buy the PS5, it says BRR compatible or something. So you just imagine this slight false advertisement, having to wait almost 2 years in the machine launch for this to be there. But remember, this was the console that you couldn't put in any hard drive to expand the storage until a patch. So
Yeah.
weird. The PS5 is weird, Paul. It's so great, but it has these little things, and I'm like, why?
Why are you like this?
Exactly. I've been teasing about it for a while, Paul, but yeah, we're here number 8. According to the latest sales report from the NPD Group, Xbox outperformed its previous sales highs set in March 2011 in the 360 era and March 2014 when Titanfall 1 came out. That was the last time the Xbox had sold a lot in a given month. Xbox Series X and S was the second best-selling console platform for March 2022, while Switch has been the best-selling unit for the first 3 months of the year. Xbox Series sales in Europe were higher than those of PS5 for the first time in February, and Xbox Series X and S were the top-selling consoles in the UK in March. While the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 have been available for nearly 18 months, both continue to suffer from stock issues due to the global chip shortage, although in recent months, Xbox Series consoles have been more readily available than PlayStation 5's. This is significant considering that PlayStation has had a more robust release calendar these first 3 months compared to Xbox that has had nothing, and that hasn't stopped Xbox around this time. Is it safe to assume the tide is actually finally changing?
So for this, so they're saying it outperformed its previous sales highs.
From the 360 era and the Xbox One era.
So despite the shortage, they were able to beat their record for that?
Yeah.
Now, it makes me wonder, because we are in a situation y'all might not have noticed, but there's some crap going on in the world.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Uh-huh.
Just some minor things you might not have heard of. And despite that, it's still overselling what it was in the 360 and the Xbox One era. All I can think is that so many people were trapped in their own houses, they bought a game system.
Mhm.
Because disposable money isn't really a thing right now for a lot of people. And I mean, that's why the Switch sales went through the roof, because it was just easier to buy one of those and stay at home.
And what system is priced at the same price point as the Switch?
That's the Series S, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that also mean that these are just getting lumped together?
Yeah.
I wonder why they're deciding to do that.
Because it just looks better. Because it's still Xbox, yeah.
Duh, but but like for the sheer ability to categorize all of it, I wish that they would have it separately, because I think the Series X is probably not doing nearly as well as the S is.
Oh, yeah, not even close, because just the price alone, just for the price alone. But does it matter, Paul? People are still getting the next gen experience at $300. And that's the thing, like the Series S, for all intents and purposes, is basically an X just at 1080p.
Right.
And with slightly less powerful stuff, but it still allows for ray tracing. Some games allow for the 60 frames, other games are capped at 30. it still allows people to play next-gen games at $300, and it's available in your Walmart. Go to Walmart, buy one. It's there.
Yeah.
So, imagine.
I think I see what you're talking about, because it is giving you all of the benefits, with the only negatives being things that you literally will not notice unless you are just very like, all right, I think I see it. I think I see the screen. No, the frame rate's a little dipping. No, it's like you're not going to see any of that, especially for people that just want the next step of all this. And they've been waiting so long for something like a PS5. They're just going to start buying elsewhere. We said it like a few weeks back. This is the stage in life of the console life cycle now, that people have waited long enough and they want to start playing the new games. And they don't care anymore. They're like, hey, fine, I'll just throw $300 at the Series S and we'll just keep moving with our lives. And then they're not going to go back.
Yeah. So, I feel like Sony, like, I think I saw a tweet from a PlayStation-centric YouTuber called MBG. He's like very fanboyish and all that, but he mentions like Sony must be punching at the air right now at the chip shortage, because the availability of the S is literally eating all potential people that would have wanted to do a PlayStation 5. That's just reality. I almost got there until I got lucky with mine. Especially after that E3 from last year that was excellent for Xbox. I was like, holy crap, all this is in Game Pass. And not to mention, is Game Pass word of mouth like growing and growing? Is the backwards compatibility word of mouth growing and growing? It's like, I feel like Sony, like again, like I mentioned, it's like Sony cannot afford at all to remain quiet. You just look at that, it's like Europe is their territory. Was their territory overall last time. PS3 managed to like stay in that territory because people were more siding with Sony even despite the 360. UK swing to the 360 around that time and then swing back to like the PS4, but it's like they recovered. The Xbox is like gaining ground again in UK. In Europe, like now people are like, yeah, this Xbox is here. We're going to go there. And on top of that, Nintendo's like always still at the top, so it's making Sony be like a third place. Imagine that.
I mean,
the tides
I
are
feel like
changing.
Nintendo has always been like the top, hasn't they?
Not in Wii U. The Wii U, they were at the top, at the bottom.
The second I ended my sentence, I went, all right, wait, besides the Wii U, the Wii and the Switch.
And the ends. Yeah, no. That's the thing. Like, Nintendo hasn't been top at all since the SNES. N64, they were bottom. PlayStation, it was like the N64. Let me see how many units it was saying. Nintendo.
It's funny because like I was always thinking back on like, oh man, Nintendo does so well, or the N64 at least. But then looking back on it, they were like, yeah, so that was a financial failure. I was like, what? All of my friends had one. Nothing else.
So think about it this way.
Yeah.
The Nintendo 64 only sold 32.93 million units worldwide in its history. With 20 million.
Less than Breath of the Wild sold, I think, by itself.
How many did the PlayStation 1 units sold? 101 million.
Yeah.
And then the PS2
was
like
more by like
155 million.
That's what it was.
PS2s, 22 million GameCubes. Then the Wii, that's when it switched.
The Wii was where it
101 million units for the Wii and 87 million for the PS3. And even then, that was the only time that in PlayStation's existence, in the console that was bad, the one that was like the weakest of the PlayStation consoles sales-wise, 87 million. So it was only like a 13-14 million difference with the best-selling Nintendo machine then.
Yeah.
So, and now obviously then the PS4 has sold like 116 million, if not more, because they're still making those. So it's like
they have to.
Yeah, they have to because they're easy to make, and it's why God of War is still gonna be a PS4 game. Why it's imperative for them to not reach the 10-year life cycle of the PS4 and still releasing PS4 games. It's just not. Technology has moved on there, but it's again what I tell you is like, yeah, Sony has always been strong in some areas, in many areas.
Yeah. But
the Xbox is like when Microsoft said that they were here to fight, they were here to fight. So again, it's like Sony should be worried.
Crap together.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and it's like the monkey spot is with Xbox. When you don't mention actual freaking releases, their actual games, everything is roses and petals. When you talk about games, you get this. Number 5. After the trailer released for Season 2 last week, 343 Industries has revealed the next roadmap that will comprise the second season for Halo Infinite. For one, despite the criticism over the length of the debut season, Season 2 is once again going to be a 6-month-long season, going from May 3rd to November 7th. These are the key highlights. 2 new maps, like we mentioned last week, Catalyst, which is for the arena mode, and Breaker, which is the big team battle mode. 3 new modes, King of the Hill, Landgrab, and Last Spartan Standing, the latter one being the precursor to the Battle Royale mode that's rumored for Season 3. Narrative events, one called Interference that runs from May 3rd to May 16th, and one called Alpha Pack that runs from July 19th to August 1st. A new 100 tier battle pass, something called Fractured and Trenched that runs from May 24th to May 30th. Campaign Network Co-op sometime late August. Campaign Mission Replay sometime late August. Forge Open Beta targeting September. Paul, things that Halo 3 launched with in September 2007 are coming almost 10 months into the life cycle of the new game. You see what I mean?
Have like nothing more to say about how dumb this stuff is. Xbox will take one step forward and like a good step-ish back, roughly, with their actual games that they're releasing, first party at least.
Mm-hmm. Because they do get good Game Pass games sometimes. They're
let's
like,
compare this to Destiny 2, for instance, where this probably is going to cost what, $30-$40 by itself.
$10. I think still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for the battle pass and all that. Okay. Well.
So this new
it's 6 months though.
Exactly, it's a 6 month. It's what happened to us with Season of the Lost. That was a 6-month season. That was tiring. We got saved by the 30th anniversary pack. They had to insert there because they know seasons can't go more than 3 months. Yeah. In fact, that's how the calendar works. Spring, summer, fall, winter.
Yeah.
3 months. So, and that's the thing. They say that they're doing this because they don't want to overwork the team. They're like, team health is a priority and all that. I'm like, you know what? I can see that. However, you say you're a live service title. A live service title that has many competitors all over the damn place, all vying for your time. And you mean to tell me that only 2 maps and you're free and you're playing the same maps with the same modes are what's gonna keep you in for 6 months when other games are gonna be updating more around that time? Just take the L and accept you're not gonna make a live service because you're not doing it well. You just aren't. It sucks. But Halo didn't need to say he was like Halo before. Didn't need to say it was a live service, and it felt more feature complete than this. And that's still so sad that it's like the player numbers have plummeted. Obviously right now they're breaking the glass, pushing the red button to actually make an actual battle royale. Yeah. That has been like rumored for like forever. Apparently they were even talking about battle royale since like 2018 back then, and then the thing wasn't ready, so they didn't put it out because the reception to Firestorm on Battlefield 5 was so bad that they were like, yeah, let's not bother. And it's sad. Just imagine Campaign Network Co-op. I was hoping I could play this campaign with you in May, like next week. Now I have to wait until August. And then Split Screen campaign is until Season 3.
I'm like holding my tongue because I've already said like everything that I need to say about it. I'm tired of hearing about the missteps of their whole system. I think they say this is for the health. I feel like that's BS because you know that they're still overworking the heck out of them. Mm-hmm. They just can't keep up, so they're putting it on everyone else to say, hey, you can't criticize us because we're doing it for health reasons.
Yeah. The fact they had to bring in certain affinity confirmed now, it's like just says everything. They just can't keep up. They're like developers
they need to be bigger, or they need to be more efficient.
Exactly. And again, it's like why doing live service is just a fool's errand. Just don't do it. Yeah. Do not do it. Everyone's so they just want to keep sucking the Fortnite cock all the time. They just want to do that because obviously Fortnite changed everything because they're live service. They know that, and everyone wants that piece of the pie, and everyone just realized that it only works for that game because they had the resources for that. If you don't have the resources, don't do it. Absolutely don't do it.
I have one last thing to say, and then that'll be it. Who would have thought a battle royale game with Master Chief, Halo Infinite would be the second best?
Yeah. Can you believe that? Like, it's better to play with the Master Chief skin over in Fortnite, because at the very least, it's like that's a game that even Fortnite had to slow down, because Fortnite also was like relentless in an unhealthy way.
And they took away the even creative ability in that game to make it better balanced for people. It's like you just can't keep up with this.
And that's the thing, is like that's the thing. Fortnite will always be this game that it will always be like a fun story to tell about how it reworked itself into a success considering what it originally was. I will forever hate it for how it changed this industry and changed the multiplayer landscape into this. And here's what sucks. Sony wants to do live service games also. Microsoft's not going to lay off that live service dong. They're still going to be trying to do this. And if they're not going to put the resources, just don't do it. I bet you there are so many people, and I've heard it many times, when they hear live service, they cringe. The word live service is cringe inducing now, because
I still do.
Exactly. So it's like, whenever you say live service, just don't do it. Like, just don't. Be different. Adapt differently. Just don't do it, because now people are just tired, because it's always the same story. It's like, eventually they're gonna... It's again, it's like, I hate that we live in this era now that everyone has had a comeback story. So now it's like everyone does it expecting the comeback story, but then you have Babylon Fall with only 10 players right now, a game that just recently released, and that just tells you everything. It's like that. Man, especially for Halo. And you know what sucks most? I like this game. I like playing. I know. My brother.
It was so high on our top 10 list, and it slowly just kept creeping further down the list the longer it was since we played. And we were like, oh, wait a minute, this barely is going to make it now. Like, if you had me redo that, I don't even know if it would make it on the top 10 anymore.
No, not in the context of 2021 that had nothing of true note. It's worth in that list. If that game, as it is right now, in this kind of year that we have, even with the front load releases that we got and that are quality, it doesn't make it.
No, not even close.
It's like, in a way, I can see why they did it. Then I was like, nothing of consequences in 2020. Let's release it now so it can seem more impressive than it actually is. Now that we have actual quality.
Oh gosh. If that had come out this year, it might still would have reached my most disappointment. So
yeah, but it's still, that's the thing, you enjoyed it back then. You got cooler in the campaign than I did, because I really enjoyed it, because we both put it at number 5, ironically, without knowing. But I was like more harder on it. And my brother finally got Game Pass to work on his really cool PC, and I got to try Halo Infinite. It looks so good in his PC, like in ultra, like super high frame rate. I was like, man, that's the thing. If this game sucked, I wouldn't care. But just the fact that it looks so good and it's being bungled. This is bleak. Someone like Chris Reagan, that he's a big Halo, he's just like in all caps, like, dude, bleak when he saw this roadmap. It's like, it's bleak. It literally is bleak for Halo this year. And let's see if their battle royale experiment really works when it launches in November. If it doesn't,
it's a good foundation for it, but it's something that I feel like if they really wanted it to be there, should have been there on release.
Exactly. And just think about how bleak it is that you need a battle royale multiplayer to work. Like for a game to stay, like, to have staying balance. Like, dang, screw you, battle royale. Number 10, Paul. Following the hullabaloo about acquisition, non-acquisition last week, it would appear Hideo Kojima is actually working next on a PS5 game regardless of studio status. Kojima posted a picture showing this new studio home for Kojima Productions. As spotted by BGC, the picture shows a PlayStation 5 dev kit plugged in, implying the dev kit is in current use for whatever Kojima is developing next. While this doesn't preclude Kojima from working on the cloud-based Xbox game that was previously rumored about, it's to be noted and remembered that the report about Kojima and Xbox working together is still at the letter of intent status, so it's still not an official collaboration. Whatever Kojima actually does next, he sure will send people into a frenzy. It's interesting that he made a point of showing the PS5 dev kit like in the core, like in the side of his big picture. So it's like,
he doesn't do things on accident.
No, he absolutely not. I mean, look, he just posted a picture last week and the internet went aflame. So he has that kind of power. And the reality is that Hideo Kojima and PlayStation have been like this almost forever. Obviously, Kojima dabbled like after. Metal Gear Solid 2 was a PS2 exclusive, and then Substance came to Xbox. Metal Gear Solid 3 never made it to Xbox until the HD collection on the 360. And even then, he didn't do that. That was Bluepoint that did it.
I forget that Bluepoint has really done a lot more than I give him credit for.
And then Metal Gear Solid 5 is the one that he worked on for Xbox. In fact, he revealed the first official Phantom Pain trailer that revealed Quiet on the 2013 Xbox conference. But then subsequent showings were on PlayStation. So it's like PlayStation and Kojima, he just knows that. In fact, he famously back in the PS2 era said that he only liked doing the PS2 games because the Xbox controller was too damn big. So for his hands, and Japanese people have small hands. That's just what it is. So whatever it is,
that controller was stupidly huge.
Yeah, I still would like to see him work on Xbox just for it to be different and see what it is, because it's a cloud-based thing, to see what it actually does.
Yeah, I am curious because he loves like the cutting edge of technology, even to the point of creating it before it exists half the time. I mean, just look at Metal Gear Solid 2 and the commentary on social media 20 years before it happened.
Exactly. So he's prophetic, or the pandemic. He predicted this 3 months before. So
he's just, I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm curious, but hopefully there's somebody kind of hovering over his shoulder to be like, Kojima, that's weird, don't do that.
Yeah.
But besides that, I'm kind of open for whatever.
Oh yeah, it's just so funny because last week was the hullabaloo of did he get bought or not, because Death Stranding got put in the first party picture that Sony does. So we'll see. We're bound to hear something anytime, Paul. Now it's like we're getting close to that point. So number 11, Paul. It seems like it is time for the annual Call of Duty reveal. Last Friday, the social media accounts for Infinity Ward went dark, changing its profile pics and header images to what initially appears to be complete darkness. However, when enhanced, the images revealed that what appears to be the silhouette of the fan-favorite character Ghost, who first appeared in the original 2009 Modern Warfare 2, and if you remember, he gets burned with your character in a shocking betrayal. In a shocking betrayal.
Spoilers for a game that's like 10 years
old, exactly.
13 now, I don't know.
13,
anyway.
Because it was 2009.
Gosh, I don't know how I did that.
So finally, you did something first time. Considering Infinity Ward would obviously actually follow up its critically and commercially successful reboot with a direct sequel, this news is the equivalent of water is wet and the sky is blue. It's fun to note though that this will be both the last Call of Duty game to be released prior to the closing of the acquisition deal between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, and also the last to be released in the annual cadence, with 2023's Treyarch developed Call of Duty moving to 2024 and breaking the series' annual holding in the fall season. So that's probably the most interesting part. It's like, this is it. It's like a lot of Call of Duty. This will be the last Call of Duty in that specific era, the annualized, relentless annualization era. And the next one will, if the deal goes through, it's now Activision as a Microsoft studio, which they say it's still, they're keeping this series multi-platform. So
I am glad that at least it's Modern Warfare 2
going out
22. That's going to be the one, because that was the one that I actually played so much that in the PlayStation kind of stats that they give you at the end of the year, that was like the top or the second top for me. And I'm not like normally a Call of Duty guy, but that game's shooting was so good that it had me just wanting to play as literally every different weapon, all the different options, and I loved it so much.
And to give it its flowers, as much as I'm not a big fan of the game, is that that's the shooting of that game is the basis for Warzone.
It's fantastic.
It is the mechanics that people actually enjoy nowadays. Even Vanguard to a degree had those mechanics, but people just like the modern stuff. So
I mean, I just love the engine, the modern setting, the fact that this is just going to be kind of like a wiping the slate clean from all of the baggage of Modern Warfare 2019, and the Cold War, Warzone, all that nonsense. And hopefully they're going to keep it separate of like Warzone 2, and then this separately.
And that's the plan actually. In fact,
thank God,
Warzone 2 is being developed, and it's going to be like the 2023 thing that comes out this year.
Oh, okay. So they're basically still getting a release on.
Yeah, but it's not the paid annual release from the fall. So it's still like Warzone was an add-on to Modern Warfare 2019. So it's still basically from that originally released package. Warzone 2 though is like it's desperately being released because the client that's currently supporting Modern Warfare and basically 3 Call of Duty games is like collapsing in itself.
It was already, I feel like, collapsing on itself with Warzone when it released. And I mean, even freaking what was it, the Spec Ops mode that was in the Warzone map felt like it was super unstable at all times. So I think it's only gotten worse because now they have like 3 different games all on each other's shoulders in a trench coat in that game, and all of the weapons and all of the balancing that has to go in between all of that, different engines and all. I do not envy the people that had to make that game work. So
yeah, and the thing is that this is like a cautionary tale of why it is important for you to know how to compress your files.
Yes,
the client is collapsing on itself because they never compressed any of their assets at all. So that's why
there's
the Call of
literally
Duty
an entire segment that is high res versions of all of their weapons worse than the original version, and it makes it balloons the data that it takes even more, and I'm like, why would you make it worse? But yeah, just I wanted to take a step back from all of that craziness and just say, like, I'm glad that, I mean, obviously Modern Warfare 2019 was a prequel to Modern Warfare 1 that we know. Ghost was famously not even close to in that because they didn't create him until Modern Warfare 2. So now with this alternate retelling, they're going to put him more as the forefront, I'm sure.
And I'm really curious about because there were rumors that this game is supposed to focus, at least in the campaign side, in the drug cartels of Colombia.
So that's already, because that's like a whole different thing that they dealt with.
Yeah, because if Modern Warfare 2 was like the immediate follow-up 5 years later from 2007 Modern Warfare with the whole Makarov, the shooting at the airport that they created, the invasions of America and all that stuff.
Yeah.
At the very least, they're not retelling Modern Warfare 2. They're just
I do appreciate
using the name,
that actually, because it really isn't Modern Warfare 2 in the way that 2009's is. I think it's going to be an alternate telling of Modern Warfare 1 with different characters. So, like, since Ghost wasn't in that, we can have a completely separate story revolving around him and any other characters that don't show up in that, because we got Soap, Price, and all them in the first game. So, I think it's easy.
Yeah, and that's if it's building on the bones of 2019's Modern Warfare, that's still like from the last few years. That's the beloved Call of Duty. So.
Oh yeah,
it should guaranteed be better than Vanguard.
It's set up for a grandstanding ovation with that one. I think so.
12 and final story, Paul. Is Ubisoft the latest big publisher in the market to be acquired? According to Bloomberg, Ubisoft is attracting preliminary takeover interest from buyout funds. Several private equity firms, including Blackstone Inc. and KKR & Co., have been studying the French business for a potential takeover. Ubisoft hasn't entered into any serious negotiations with potential acquirers, and it's unclear whether its major shareholders are willing to pursue a deal, the people in the know say. Shares of Ubisoft have fallen 41% in Paris, trading over the past year, giving it a market value of about 4.8 billion euros, 5.2 billion. That's what Ubisoft is valued on. Deliberations are at an early stage, and there's no certainty any of the suitors will proceed with offers, people told Bloomberg. Ubisoft said in an email statement to Bloomberg that it's built a strong portfolio and is ideally positioned to capitalize on emerging opportunities amid rapid growth in the industry. So they aren't confirming nor denying a potential acquisition considering their current share price. With Microsoft still embroiled in the midst of an antitrust concerns and scrutiny over the Activision Blizzard deal, don't expect them to be one potential buyer anytime soon. Ubisoft. All your decisions have valued you at $5 billion when you have like 1 million studios all over the world. Can you believe that?
I will say, for some reason, I thought Ubisoft was so big that it wouldn't really matter. I mean, this is from, we already know Activision is trying to be bought by somebody else, but I don't know why I thought that Ubisoft was like kind of parallel to it, and that they were just like doing their own thing. So this was shocking. Also, it made me realize that I know nothing about the international stock market because that's such like an American-centered thing that I didn't even think about the fact that that's totally a thing elsewhere, just in their own circle. And then also the fact that it made me wonder, because the only reason Microsoft is stuck in the antitrust stuff isn't that national? So is there a system internationally that would stop somebody from doing this?
Yeah, the EU can stop someone. The EU has absolutely stopped previous mergers before. In fact, I think Nvidia got embroiled with something that the EU kind of like nicked it. So.
Okay, cool. I know that's definitely not a thing in China because it's basically run by what, two companies or something.
Exactly, and I feel especially Activision Blizzard specific is a very American company. Like the main thing that they're buying is in America, so Microsoft is facing American scrutiny there. There's some Ubisoft. I mean, there are parts of Ubisoft that are in America. Ubisoft San Francisco. It's like
but then that's just kind of like a smaller base, because I think your main headquarters is where you fall under those legal restraints. I think.
Yeah.
So that did make me kind of curious, but at the same time, I think I said to you the best summary of what I could think of is that look at Ubisoft being so scummy of a corporation to finally find another corporation to be scummy enough to pick them up.
We should have
be
seen,
like, hey, you align perfectly with what we want. Who would have thought?
Yeah, we should have seen this coming as soon as they started delving in NFTs that they were in trouble. So
if the fact that we're going to get another layer on top of the IPs that we love so much that we're going to have to deal with on top of Ubisoft itself means that we're probably not going to be getting much more of this outside of some money grab.
And there's this video from a YouTuber, Mr. Matty Plays. I like him a lot. He made a 30-minute YouTube called The Dark Ages of Ubisoft, where he like detailed the story of where Ubisoft used to be back in like the early 2000s and where they're now. It is really sad to see how a company that was the bastion of creativity in the third-party space, that delivers so many games and each of different quality, they found their one thing that really stuck, the Assassin's Creed open world style, the Far Cry 3, and then they just, like we've talked before, they were at the forefront of the homogeny that dominated their entire portfolio. And the thing is that it still works for them. Like Valhalla sold a lot. It's apparently the best-selling the best-selling game in the series now, which is sad to think of.
No.
But and then remember, they were like, yeah, we're making Assassin's Creed Live Service in our next big title, and the next Far Cry will be live service also. And despite Far Cry 6 already having some live service elements to it, like I see where you're going now, and you have that, and this is how you're trading. That's when you know that you were in big, massive trouble. And it's just sad because I look back at that era of Splinter Cell. I look back at the Prince of Persia that I still have installed on my PS3, those 3 Prince of Persia games, the 2008 one, the original, like how fresh Assassin's Creed originally felt back then, when Tom Clancy was at the top of its game with Ghost Recon and Rainbow Six.
Even the spin-offs for Tom Clancy games were good.
Exactly, and then everything just came under the same umbrella, and it's just sad. And then Breakpoint, obviously I mentioned that was like a big breakpoint before they had that big turbulence, and obviously the whole sexual harassment that was unearthed in like 2020 that then got overtaken by everything that happened with Activision. But remember, Ubisoft was the one that was in the limelight over all the problems with their culture. That this was the... I'm not surprised if it gets overtaken. It's like they hoard themselves out basically. So
it's a different way of phrasing it, but more or less they did not have a lot of integrity to begin with, so this is kind of what happens, I guess. And I'm kind of surprised that it didn't happen sooner now that I think about it, but yeah,
exactly. It's like whoever takes Ubisoft, it is what it is. It's like
good luck and I'm sorry.
Yes, exactly. Good luck and I'm sorry. And in that note, we end this week's episode, Paul. Slightly longer than the other ones, but we had a lot.
We had so much.
So much. So where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art. That's like I was saying, I've been posting some No Man's Sky screenshots. I post memes and sometimes art about the things that I work on. Where can they find you? They
can find me at _Drosegovia on Twitter, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, and my website, thecriticalcorner.com, which I still am cleaning up of all broken links so I can start monetizing it. Because it's still growing. I'm still shocked how many people are reading it without me promoting it. So Something, there's probably the name. The name's easy to find.
Oh, it's a fantastic alliteration, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yes. So, Paul, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you online now that you got me to download No Man's Sky. And
Yes.
I'll still keep diving into Elden Ring. And I'll see you next week. And everyone have a happy end of the month. And remember,
Press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
See you guys later. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe.